let's go. Let's go with Danny Duffy. He just hurled a career high 179 and two-thirds innings, nearly identical numbers as a starter and a reliever. He finished his last 26 games were all starts and pretty good. So, what's your feel for Danny Duffy, and why is he somebody that you think everybody needs to know about heading in to 2017?
Because I think people weren't paying attention last year when it was, came to looking at the numbers, the sort of production that Duffy put up. I mean, he was a top 25 starter in 2016. And early on, I know the ADPs aren't necessarily something you should be reading into, especially as we do this in late December. But at the same time, from where he's getting drafted to sort of value he put up last year and looking at the numbers of sort of repeatability, that's a word, of what Duffy can do. Is somebody that I think he's got a great amount of value. As you mentioned, he hit a career high in innings last year, made, I think, 24 to 26 starts, somewhere in there. It's about 162 innings is what he ended up pitching. But, for most of his career, he was between the pen and the rotation, finally got a spot in the rotation last year, and he's shown well. Across those 162 innings, we'll call him, he had a 3.56 ERA, a 238 batting average against. The K per nine was 9.3. And the biggest adjustment for Duffy was the control. He was able to rein it in. He was a guy that historically had been in the 3 or 4s when it came to the walk per nine numbers. He had that down to 2 even as a starter. So everything sort of fell in line, even though he was actually giving up more opposite field contact, harder contact. It didn't play up because he was keeping the base runners off. So when he did get some of those hard hit balls, it wasn't really, he wasn't getting punished because of it. He wasn't paying because of it. So I think the control numbers, and even with the hard hit stuff or whatever, you can look at Duffy and be like, okay, this is a guy that's going to give me decent control numbers, good K per nine numbers. He pitches in a good pitching park. And he's somebody that's, sort of, you can see the development going there. This guy was a top prospect arm at one point. He's finally showing that.
So it's crazy that you say that, because I swear we think alike too much of the time. I have written down in my notes, can he repeat it? And you use the word repeatability. Normally when we refer to pitchers' repeatability, we're talking about their mechanics and their arm motion. But I'm talking about specifically the workload. As we mentioned, he started out in relief. And the big hurdle that he had to overcome was maintaining health for a full season. Now we've finally seen it, 179 innings. I think he's going into his age 27 season. So my big question with Duffy is the stuff real? The stuff is definitely real.
Yeah.
Is this repeatable to maintain the production of the workload?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's going to be a 200 inning guy this season or not, but it should be said that only 18, I believe, of his innings in 2016 were bullpen innings. So he threw almost an entire season, 162 innings for somebody, first full season as a starter, more or less, is pretty good. Even if he ramps it up, another few starts and he makes, he has 182 innings, I think that's totally reasonable. The hope is that he can stay healthy. He certainly did it last year. So I'm buying in that it's repeatable. And I think the big thing, and it's going to be really the sticking point and the discussion point with all of these different pitches we're going to talk today, is it's all about value. And I think he presents great value as somebody that could be, a 2, or if, he makes any improvements, a sneaky 1 on your fantasy team. Somebody you don't have to invest, a top 5 round pick in.
Right. And let's just be clear before we move on to the next pitcher. 200 innings does not mean a pitcher's good or bad. It just typically is a number that you can look at for a high caliber starter who's going deep into games the majority of the time, which is what you're looking for. But 180 innings is right there, knocking on the door. So solid performer. And I kind of think as well that he'll be able to get to another 180 plus innings this year. So good stuff for Danny Duffy.